Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Kitchings Table. I'm your host, Earl Kitchings, and as always, I am definitely happy to be with you this morning. Usually, we have some great things to talk about, and today will not be any different. Joining me is my co-host, Ms. Ronleen Kennedy. Ronleen, good morning, and how are you today?
Good morning. How are you, Earl? Doing fine, thank you.
Every day it's another thing. How about that? So
Yes.
you just never know what the next day will bring, but we do know it will bring something new and or different or both. So I was, as I tend to do, reading the newspaper or looking at something online, and I ran across an article about two ladies who are being, I don't think they've been indicted yet, but they're being pursued, uh, and looks like they may be prosecuted for some improprieties as it relates to their nonprofit. So, our title of our topic today is Schemes and Scams. Schemes and Scams. Because you come up with a scheme and you're hoping that you can use it as a scam. And as we know, criminals have a job to do just like everybody else. They are not exempt. It's just that their jobs are on the wrong side of the law. And normally, once you get caught up on that side, it's all downhill. So I'm going to start out with this quote from Marcus Varner, who writes this: nonprofits are granted tax exempt status in the United States and other countries, compensation of sorts for doing good and not seeking profits. When they're found to be using a charity to mask their own gain or foster a lavish lifestyle, we who pay taxes feel that they're cheating. But our disgust with charity scandals mostly comes from the outright hypocrisy involved. When for profit organizations cross the line, we just shake our heads and say something like, see, that's how they are. But when nonprofits, which claim to be dedicated to making the world a better place, inherently putting themselves on the high road, cross the line, it triggers an immediate feeling of betrayal and distrust. I wanted to open with that because I think Marcus Varner succinctly states it as it is. We can give for-profit companies kind of a pass. We're not happy when they're doing things on the wrong side either. But when nonprofits, those charitable organizations who are out there working for the betterment and the good of people and services and things of that nature, to help other people, to help people in situations that uh, will make their lives better, to help circumstances by offering services that will make life better. Just the total concept of doing something without looking for, as he stated, gain or to foster a lavish lifestyle. And when they cross the line, we are very disgusted and we feel betrayed because we feel like we're giving our money is being given to these organizations in service to help. And when we talk about nonprofits, now let's be very clear about one thing about nonprofits. Nonprofits do make money, but they make money to operate. They make money to operate and to continue their service for what their mission statement is. A for-profit corporation is strictly in the business of capitalism at the highest level, and the more we can make, the better we feel. So when Marcus Varner writes something as he did, and it grabbed my attention based on reading about these two women who were operating this nonprofit, and somewhere that train got off the nonprofit service track to personal, lavish, for-profit, doing things for self and selfishness track. And they are in the process now of being prosecuted for what they have done. According to the National Center for Charitable Statistics, there are upwards of 1.5 million nonprofits in America, just in America, 1.5 million nonprofits. And we tend to know the large nonprofits, and then we tend to know the churches as the next level of nonprofits. And then you have subtle levels that are high, and there are just some nonprofits who basically are just out there doing service and trying to do the best they can. They're not looking to, bring in the millions of dollars that they need to operate in order to do what they're supposed to do. But some people just want to make a difference. I think that's the best way to put a nonprofit. Just wanting to make a difference. And when we talk about these nonprofits, organizations who are raising funds to help someone else or help other people, organizations established by wealthy families to provide scholarships so that students can go to college or professional school or wherever they choose to go. When we hear and we've decided that we want to support them, and you see commercials coming on all the time. I think one of the greatest nonprofits that we are probably familiar with, if you're watching TV, is St. Jude's Children's Hospital for children. It's a research hospital. And St. Jude's is trying to make life better for those children who have health situations and the families who have to take care of their children who are under excruciating circumstances. And one of the things that they tell you is families don't have to pay a dime to try to heal their child. Now, this particular organization, this research hospital for children, was started by former entertainer Danny Thomas. Now, Danny Thomas' name may not be familiar with this generation. It definitely resonates with my generation, and his daughter resonates with my generation because his daughter is Marlo Thomas, who had a TV show called That Girl. Danny Thomas used to have the Danny Thomas Show back in the 50s and 60s. But this man had a vision, and his vision was to help children who are medically and health challenged. And they came up with this concept of this hospital, and they do it as well as anybody in the world. So it's families who do things like that, and some families you wouldn't even know do nonprofit work. You may know of the nonprofit organization, but you may not know of the family that may have either started it or provide significant dollars. And I feel at times, for the amount of money that is spent for the election of a president, the millions and millions and millions of dollars that wealthy people have that they give to try to get somebody elected to president, wouldn't it be better if they could send that same level of money to help more nonprofits? Wouldn't that be a better thing than, you're trying to have more power, more money? And I'm sure they would say, well, if we get more money, then we can do more. Well, I agree with that, but it doesn't quite look like that when you make a donation of $4 or $5 million to someone to run for office, hoping that when they get in office, when you scratch my back, I scratch your back. So now let's go into these two ladies who I'm talking about. So after a 3-year investigation, state of Florida officials arrested Patricia Duarte, the former chief financial officer of the Florida Coalition Against Domestic Violence, for her role in padding the books at the defunct taxpayer-funded organization to compensate herself and the former CEO. The CEO is Tiffany Carr, and Tiffany Carr was paid $7.5 million in taxpayer funds over the past 3 years. Sources who are looking into the investigation says that Carr, who is age 55, resigned from the organization in November 2019, citing health problems. Health problems. Yeah, mental health problems from the stress of what's about to come down when the phone and you get those calls and those knocks at the door and those federal agents come a knocking. So they say the case has been under investigation by a statewide prosecutor and the governor's office of the inspector general since 2020. According to the Leon County Sheriff's Department, Duarte was charged with grand theft, fraud, and falsifying documents, and is being held in jail. She and the coalition's former chief operating officer, not CEO, but COO, Sandra Bennett, were ordered to pay $60,000 in a settlement agreement reached with the state in 2021. But Carr, who was the CEO, was ordered to pay $2.1 million. So, in a day and time when you have organizations, nonprofits, who have people running them that start off with good intentions and decide they're going to take that train off the goodwills and service track to put it on the personal endowment track, that's when things go bad. And it, Ronline, it makes it, or it gives somewhat of a stain or a blemish to all the other organizations who are nonprofit, who are doing things the right way. And just like with the news, the bad news travels faster than anything. So a bad nonprofit overshadows 10 good nonprofits. So the FBI is involved with this. They're involved in some other situations where by organizations are doing somewhat of the same thing. They're looking into an organization called Feeding Our Future. This organization has received more than $65 million from federal food programs during the coronavirus pandemic, but yet that money seems to not be doing what it's supposed to do. And this is happening in Minnesota. So when you have a organization, and this organization in Minnesota is called the Advanced Youth Athletic Development, and they are, channeling that money into the federal food aid program. But when that money starts to go into private pockets, when it goes into personal pockets, when those documents that are filed on behalf of that organization don't quite line up as far as the IRS is concerned, then the IRS will call in the FBI. And for those organizations who have been doing this for a very long time, and as we know right now, we have an ex, I don't like to say former, an ex-president who is under scrutiny now for his businesses. And he did have, I want to say, 1 or 2 nonprofits. I think he did. I think the university, I don't know. maybe it was a for-profit university, but when you're falsifying documents is called fraud. And when you're doing it at a federal level, that's when the minutia gets deep. And when the feds are called in, they're going to take a microscope, they're going to take a magnifying glass, they're going to look in every nook and cranny that they can find, every stone they can turn over to find out what you've been doing with this money that you say you've been a good steward of, but we can't seem to understand why there's a problem with your nonprofit. So when these investigations start, and sometimes you'll hear about them and then you won't hear about them, and then it seems like they're forgotten about because it'll go into like, 5, 6, 7 years, you hadn't heard anything. Then all of a sudden, bam, they've done all their homework. They've done all their investigating. They got all their witnesses. They got all the documentations. And once they have gotten and compiled all that data and they're ready to go to court, that's when those knocks at the door come. The unsuspecting knock at the door. The unsuspecting knock in your business. When they show up and they are very, very keyed in on making some arrest and making people pay for fraud, for theft, grand theft, not just theft, grand theft. And of course, grand theft has to be at a certain monetary amount. So when you talk about organizations receiving millions and millions of federal dollars for a program such as federal food programs, and that money is not being utilized the way you said you were going to utilize it, it presents a problem. And organizations such as Feeding Our Future, Advanced Youth Athletic Development, of course, what do they like to say, Ronleen? We've done nothing wrong. We haven't done anything wrong. Okay, well, that's why we have court. We're going to sort it all out in court. But until then, we got to shut you down. We got to shut you down. We got to turn the tap off. You got to stop. And all the people you may have working for you, they're without a job. So it's a domino effect. I mean, the people at the top, yeah, you taking advantage of the system. Your peon workers, they're just happy to have a job and getting paid. But now when that sledgehammer hits, and it hits hard, and you got to shut it down, imagine having, well, we're all familiar with the United Way. We're all familiar with the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts of America. These organizations are multi-million-dollar nonprofit organizations doing major, major work and generating major dollars. And again, they're not there to pocket it. They're there for service. So when those organizations or similar organizations like them get in trouble, and I wouldn't even want to speculate how many people work for United Way across this country. But if the United Way has gotten in that kind of trouble and they have to shut it down, there's a few thousand people who are going to lose jobs. Same thing with the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. It's a few thousand people going to lose jobs, in addition to the number of volunteers that now who do things because they love it. I know as a former scout leader in the Boy Scouts organization, it was a love and passion for the development of boys and hoping to turn them into young men who can become leaders through an organization that I know it's been taking its hits, but I think the Boy Scouts of America and scouting throughout the world is one of the finest organizations based on mission statement and structure for teaching so many diverse things that a boy can use throughout life forever. And I recall when I was doing being a scout leader, you know, boys, when they get to be somewhere right around 19th grade, they want to shy away from scouting. And one of the things I would always tell them, Raleen, well, if you save somebody's life based on your scout skills, do you think they will continue to tease you because you're a scout? See, scouting is an honorable thing, very honorable. And the highest, you know, just like in the military, you know, the highest rank that you can achieve, the highest thing you can do in scouting is to attain Eagle Scout. That carries a lot of clout for those people who have favor for scouting. So to hear that a nonprofit is not doing what they're supposed to hear that uh, the people at the top, the CEO, the COO, the the chief financial officer, that they have started to utilize the funds coming in to, as it said, have a lavish lifestyle. You know, last year you were driving a Hyundai. This year you're driving a Mercedes. Last year you were living in a 2,000 square foot home. Now you're living in a 10,000 square foot home. Okay. I don't begrudge anyone for earning what they earn. But once you start tapping into uh, taking it away from the people you are intended to serve, then that's a whole nother thing. And you know, our government officials, especially the ones at the federal level, many of them have foundations. Many of them have foundations, and many of their foundations do a good job with helping people, helping homeless people, helping uh, people of domestic violence, helping people who have had medical situations, helping people who are in need of a home. Um, you know, one of my favorite nonprofit guys is Warwick Dunn, former football player, played with the Atlanta Falcons. He he lost his mother, I believe, when he was like in high school, somewhere around that age. From the time he made pro football to this day, he builds homes for people in need of housing. He builds homes for people who need housing, people who are on their down on their luck, as they say. He has, I want to say, probably in the last 30 years, he has probably built over 150 houses. That is service. You may not hear a lot about him, but that is service. So when you've got organizations taking advantage and deciding that they want to go in a different route and take money and utilize it the wrong way, you know, it's unfortunate. They, you know, I was looking at this list here, the 6 ugliest scandals involving charities that went down in 2016. This is just a snapshot. 2016, the Clinton Foundation. That was the first one. Second one, the Trump Foundation. The third one, the Wounded Warrior Project. Now you really have to shake your head when you hear that they got caught up in some type of scandal, because they are there trying to help those soldiers who come back from battle with serious, debilitating injuries that they will never be the same from those injuries they suffered in battle, many of them. Wounded Warrior was third. Number 4 was the More Charitable Foundation. And this foundation funds social welfare and environmental causes. Scandals are the result of internal greed or irresponsibility. Which one would you think comes first? Is it the irresponsibility or is it the greed?
The greed.
The greed? Okay. As the great singing group, the OJs, and their song still resonates today. For the love of money. People will do some things that you be like, for the love of money. Yes, indeed. Number 5, the Sugar Research Foundation. And this organization is in the medical field. Say they paid a trio of Harvard scientists $50,000 to debunk claims that sugar was causing a host of health problems in the American public, including heart disease. $50,000, guys. That's it? That's all they paid you? $50,000? Boy, they got y'all for cheap, as they would say. $50,000. But this happened in 2016. Number 6, the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation. A successful star, and his foundation was dedicated to the long-term health and well-being of all Earth inhabitants, environmental issues, and things of that nature. But they got caught up. And they said that, one of the things they cited, they had a gala that reported to have raised $25 million, another $6 million in ticket revenue alone. And at the time of the complaint, DiCaprio claimed to have raised $45 million in 2016. But where exactly that money is coming from and where it's going, no one knows. And DiCaprio, as it states in this article from online, is not saying. Wow. But it goes beyond that, Ronleen. In an opinion written by Betsy McCaughey, her article is titled, "Government Using Charities to Hide Just How Much Money is Going to Illegal Immigration." How about that? And we know that the immigration situation in New York City is, man, it's taking a toll. They're saying that thing is up to $2 billion right now for what the city is on the hook for. And it says that in New York, anywhere else in the U.S., you're getting scammed by groups like United Way, Catholic Charities, Central American Refugee Center, because you think these charities are doing a good job when really what she's saying is they call it money laundering. So there are a lot of things going on that seems to overlap in some way or another. And when you get so big, and I think we kind of learned that from the ex-president and all his shenanigans. You get so big and you get so many lawyers that, when you got miles and miles of documentation and you can move things here and there, and you got all the necessary documents to hide and keep things hidden and, play the shell game, it may be hard for you to find where that money is and where it's going. And, you got shell companies and things like that. We've heard about these shell companies and off-sea accounts and things like that. All for the love and the greed of money. Hey, we're at our halfway point here in the show today. This is the Kitchings Table, and you can catch us every Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. We hope that you join us. We hope that if you've got a thought or an opinion or you want to give us a comment, send it or put it on our chat. Ron Lee will be more than happy to take that and catalog it for us, and maybe we can get around to responding to it. But we want to just make sure we can bring information or stories to you about what's going on in the real world as it affects so many different things. And as I've looked at some of the other organizations that are out here, Ronleen. There's an organization called the Royal National Lifeboat Institution. The Royal National Lifeboat Institution. And they're in trouble for immigrant problems. The Cancer Fund of America. They say that the guy, I guess, who was in charge of that draws a salary of $200,000 a year. It's bad enough that he's getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars yearly. And you can find out where your donations are going, because when you send money and there's no, if you don't follow up to find out where it went, abracadabra. Abracadabra. Operation Lookout National Center for Missing Children, for Missing Youth. The Gibsons are a husband and wife pair operating Operation Lookout National Center for Missing Youth. This charity claims to help the families of missing children, but steals. Now, stealing and theft. Very fine line between the two of those. Theft sounds a little bit softer. Stealing, that's hard. But they have stolen 82% of the donations, giving the rest. Let's see. Claims to help the families of missing children, but steals 82% of the donations, giving the rest to themselves. Only 2% of the donation goes toward the cause, while the rest goes into the pockets of the directors. Wow. Then the Committee for Missing Children, another organization that's supposedly looking out for children. And then there's an organization called Complex Minds UK. They cannot be found on the Charity Commission. A post to the TripAdvisor say they hang around tourist destinations and try to catch unsuspecting tourists off guard by selling cheap plastic that you can buy to be made at 18 pence per. So that's a scam. And I don't know about you, Ronleen, but when you get calls on your phone, does your phone tell you a scam is likely? Do you get that note?
Scam likely, yes.
Scam is likely. Ooh, scam. Okay. So in order for you to have a scam, you first got to come up with a scheme. That's our topic of our show today, scams and schemes. When folks come up with schemes, they lead to scams. And scammers are out there scamming every day, 24/7. It used to be just the old scam when the Nigerian scams were coming, when you get a call or you get an email from a family member saying they're overseas somewhere and they're caught up and they lost their wallet. They don't have any money. Please send me $5,000 right away. Please hurry up. Send it to me. I need it right now. Some folks would respond to that. Shoot that money right off. And next thing you know, bam, it's gone. That wasn't you. No, that wasn't me. I didn't call you to ask you for no $5,000, but I sent it to you. You didn't send it to me because I didn't call you to ask you for $5,000. Oh my goodness. And the thing about these scams, a lot of them are untraceable.
Mm-hmm.
Untraceable. So criminals are busy people. I wonder what would happen if they use all that brain power to do things for the good of humanity and mankind. You think their head might explode and pop? It's amazing. It's amazing.
So the bottom line to all of that is they want to avoid taxes. I had to, one of the coursework that I had to do over the last couple of weeks was dealing with anti-money laundering. And there is a whole coursework out there for that, because it comes in, like you said, the scams and schemes, or schemes and scams, they come in all forms. So, like in the insurance industry, they broke it down to how that comes. Cybersecurity, because we are forced to use online payment, uh, for commerce, so what have you, to be able to conduct our business every day. So they never have to see you. And as you say, the shell companies that are so hard to track down. So there's a whole initiative through Homeland Security to be able to get better about that. The other scams that you talked, that you brought out, it's amazing to me how our leaders
Right. Right.
are at the very top of that. You mentioned the Clinton administration as well as the Trump administration at the very top, too. I remembered how we were upset about the three-strike rule that would put people, keep them imprisoned or what have you, and to be able to see what that looks like over time. Not to have these people return home because they're making money off the prison system, and they're free worker through the prison system. So when you think about that, and then you, like you said, to use these not for profit organizations to do something wayward, to be able to hurt the public. So thank you so much for bringing that out today as our topic discussion. And as we say, donors, beware. Know where your dollars are going. Ask where your dollars are going. And then for the United Way to be a part of that, schemes and scams. A lot of our money has gone to the United Way. A lot of campaigns has happened as of United Way to be able to support the many facets of what they do. Keeping children off the street, keeping children fed, keeping children clothed, keeping children out of the homes of the domestic violence, things like that. So go ahead, Earl. I see your wheels turning.
I wanted to just bring two more things to you. Number one, you talk about schemes and scams. Well, what about all those politicians who scam the government for those what POP loans,
PPP loans, yes.
PPP loans? Right.
Mm.
You didn't need the money, but you because it was out there. It's like here's a basket of free money. Come grab as much as you can, and we don't care what you do with it. You don't have to pay it back. Just take the money because we got this COVID situation. Okay, so but I was looking at this foundation called the Disabled Veterans National Foundation. And this organization raised $115 million in its first 16 years. But those funds were not allocated properly. Over 104 was paid to contractors rather than veterans. And out of the 115 million raised, over 11 million was spent. Over 11 million was spent on 11,000 bags of M&Ms, which the veterans didn't need. Those are some expensive M&Ms. So when these types of things happen, and they're the large organizations, some of them are small, manipulating the system, knowing how to work the system. I think people start off with a good heart, but that greed just seeps in. It just seeps in, and before they know it, they forget about what their true mission was, because that MONEY, oh my goodness, it's just too good. You start living a lavish lifestyle, you don't want to go back. It's hard to go back. So when we hear about these organizations, it's just unfortunate. There were several others. And then I ran across this: 8 things to look out for when donating to a charity. Check the charity's track record, research the charity, ask questions, be wary of pressure to donate immediately, be wary of overly glowing testimonies. Check out the charity's finances. Check out the charity's causes, and watch out for those red flags. Bottom line, if you want to donate to a charity, you must do it wisely and only support the best causes. So do your research, look into the ones that are doing things. Not all of them are out here to scam folks. Like we said, there are 1.5 million nonprofits in America. 1.5 million nonprofits in America. And when you've got that many nonprofits circulating and doing things to make an effort to be of help or to come up with a scheme so that they can run a scam, it's like the police. You don't have enough people to monitor everything. Because if you did, I think a lot of schemes and the scams would be a little bit less than what they are. So I hope that just bringing this to you and saying to our viewers and our listeners, hey, there's nothing wrong with a good nonprofit. If you're going to donate, make sure you know who you're donating to. Make sure you're donating to ones who have good causes, and check to see if they're on a Better Business Bureau. That might be one way. I have not found too many colleges and universities who are caught up in scams of this type nature, because colleges and universities are nonprofits. What tends to happen with them is sometimes administrators, they see that pot of gold and they want to get their hands on it. But as far as the university itself trying to scam people, I don't think that was the case. I only know of one for-profit university that scam people. And I hope that most of those people got their money back in some way or cause. But the hammer is dropping hard and heavy in the state of New York. And if it means that the government got to bankrupt a bad organization and a bad company because it's been run poorly and been scheming and scamming for so long, then so be it. As they say, bust it up. Bust it up with all due haste. And let the chips fall where they may. It's like, remember the scene from the movie Trading Places, and right at the end, the two brothers who had ran the scam on Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, they broke them at the end, and they came to him and said, we need, all accounts settled by the end of the day. We don't have that kind of money. Well, you know what that means, right? We got to take all your stock and sell it off. They got to say all accounts settled by the end of the day. But we started this, we started this stock exchange. We don't care. You got to pay the ultimate price now. You're scammed and it didn't work. All over a $1 bet. So these are the types of things that's going on. And just be mindful, everyone, that if you're going to give to a charitable organization, give after you've done your homework, especially the large ones. A small one, you might can, okay, that may not hurt you so bad, depending on what you give. But if you're giving to the large ones, and, if 10 million people give $100 to United Way every year, that's $100 million. Simple as that. So anyway, Ronleen, that's going to do it for my part of the show today. We're going to go to your part when we talk about Black History Facts. And you got a great one for us today. I can't wait to hear about who you're going to talk about.
Well, thank you so much, Earl. And it is my pleasure to be able to speak about Ruby Nell Bridges Hall. She was born September 8th in 1954. She's an American civil rights activist, and she was the first.
Excuse me, Ronleen. Excuse me. What was that? What was her birthday again?
September 8th.
Oh, September 8th. Okay.
September 8th,
2 months
19.
before me.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
1954.
That is
And
correct.
my goodness, as they say, who knew what would happen with your life before you were born, of how you would impact the world, and how a child that wasn't born yet, everyone has some idea of who she is. And so it is our pleasure to bring to you today how little children can impact the world in such of a large way. So, as I said, she was the first African American child to attend the formerly white only William Frantz Elementary School in Louisiana during the New Orleans desegregation crisis on November the 14th, 1960. She was the subject of a painting, The Problem We All Live With by Norman Rockwell. Now, where she was born in Mississippi in Tylertown, and her parents moved to New Orleans. And when she started school, they had this thing going on, as they said, that the desegregation crisis. They had that going on to wherein, as you said earlier, it had to be busted up based on Brown versus education. So the Board of Education. So with that being said, she was like any other child, taking care of her siblings. She was one of five siblings, and she was taking care of her siblings and jumping rope, climbing trees like anybody else. Well, what one of the U.S. Marshals, can you imagine being 5 and 6 years old, being escorted to school by the U.S. Marshals to make sure that you're safe?
Yes, that's pretty dynamic.
And then you have someone that's holding up a black baby doll in your image inside a coffin, saying that's going to be you.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I thank God that all these years later, that was not her fate. She is now the age of 69, and she is thriving. You can go and check out her website at www.rubybridges.com. Now, what happened in her plight of going to school at a white only school, wherein now they have to admit blacks into school, it did not come without a cost. They had to take a test. There was a test that was designed to keep them out of school, saying that blacks would not be able to score high enough to be able to get into the school. Well, Ruby was one of the 6 children who was able to pass the test, and she was admitted to that school. That was their school of choice. It was recommended by the NAACP to her parents that they allow her to be able to go to a white only school. And the U.S. Marshal said that she did not whimper, she did not cry. She looked at this thing as an opportunity to face with courage. They said she marched in that school like a soldier, and a little soldier at that. So the first day it was designed where, because she came to the school, that the parents decided that they were not going to allow their white children to attend school with her because she's black. Her teacher was who decided to stay on at the school, taught her just like she was teaching a full class. She was the only one in this classroom. Can you imagine having a whole classroom a whole teacher to yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a psychologist. His name was Dr. Cole. He made sure that she was clothed, and he came to visit her at their home once a week to make sure that she received the kind of mental counseling that she needed in order to go through. And I wanted to bring that to the forefront because with everything that's happening today, the science of our mind is very important that it stays intact. So our time is up. Do you have anything you want to add to that? Earl, before we leave?
Congratulations, Ruby Bridges. Thank you for being a warrior. Thank you for being a game changer. Thank you for being um, someone who stood up, and we stand on your shoulders. So many of us stand on your shoulders, especially the children in New Orleans. So thank you.
All right. And before we close, Earl, I just want to acknowledge that she has there were two elementary schools named after her. That's in Alameda, California, and Woodinland, Washington. And I want to read a quote from her. She said, "A statue of Bridges stand in the courtyard of William France Elementary School. When asked what she hopes children will feel seeing the statue, she responded, I think kids will look at it and think to themselves, I can do something great too. Kids can do anything, and I want them to be able to see themselves inside the statue. Hopefully, that will remind them that they can change the world." So thank you so much, Ruby Bridges Hall, for changing the world as we see it today.
Very good. Thank you, Ronline, for bringing that to us. That's going to do it for another edition of the Kitchings Table. We hope you join us next Tuesday for more news, information, enlightenment. For Ronline Kennedy, I'm W. Earl Kitchings. As always, as we say, do something good for somebody else. Take care, everybody.